Hello, my name is Michael and I work at Michael's second-hand bookshop in Ramsgate, but today I have been out watercolour sketching, and my object here is to show you the equipment I use for watercolour sketching, how I carry the equipment around, and how I manage all this equipment within in terms of painting plein air in difficult places where you've got to keep an eye on your stuff to make sure that it doesn't get stolen. So starting off with an ordinary brush roll. So this contains various pencils, pens and brushes that I use for different types of sketching. Today I have just used watercolour brushes, and they go in the brush roll. Now, I don't use a sponge for watercolour. I use a piece of kitchen roll, and I use this to wipe the brushes and to dab off any errors I make. So if I make an error in watercolour, usually if I'm pretty quick, I can wet the paper with just ordinary water and the brush and dab my mistake off. I mean, people say you can't go back with watercolour, but I use fairly hard paper, and I find that that is easy for me. Now, the paint box I use is a Winsor & Newton one, and if you have a look at it, I've emptied it out so that we can do this without much trouble. You can see that on the side here is a water tank, and you can pour the water into this pot to dip your brush in. Now, it has, when you get it, it's got about 12 things that you can put paint in, but I've upped that a bit by cramming a couple in the top and one in the middle. You have to wedge it up a bit with bits of card. I think you can buy these online for about £50. Now, the great thing about them though is that they fold up. You can pour the water back in the pot, just pouring from the corner into the top of the pot. You can put the whole thing together like that, so it becomes a small box, and that later on will go in my pockets. Now, coming to the pad and the paper. So starting with what I was painting today, and I was painting Canterbury Cathedral in the distance, so I've started a watercolour there, and I should stress that I've started it on a big piece of paper because I may want to go further across or downwards. I don't really know yet. Obviously it doesn't give you a very good idea, so I'll show you a couple of other watercolours that are in the sketchbook that I painted in Canterbury. So this one is in Canterbury Cathedral, and you can get away sitting in Canterbury Cathedral and sketching away. If you haven't got an entry pass, which I have, then you can get in for nothing by going to a service. So you can go to Matins or even Song, and you can sit there and think about your painting, and then you can paint. Now here's another one of inside Canterbury Cathedral, and you can see it's pretty straightforward watercolour. I'm a bit old-fashioned in my style. I must admit, I just sit there and paint straight off. You've got to be a bit careful where you start, but I'm not giving painting lessons here anyway. And I usually keep a couple of extra bits of paper in the sketchbook and my sketchbook is this. So it serves the purpose of something to rest on if you're in a pew. Very important to write your name in the front. Absolutely critical, in fact, because very few people will steal it, but if you leave it somewhere, unless you've got your name, your phone number, your email address in the front, you'll never see it back again. So then this goes together like this. But the important trick with all this stuff, and you see this is an A3 sketchbook, so it's quite big, is that it all has to go in your pockets, plus the ancillary stuff that you've had with you because you're out and about painting, which may well be a drink and a sandwich, but some other stuff too. So we'll get to that now. So on the clothes front, I wear my clothes so that I can go down to a t-shirt. I usually just wear a shirt over the top of the t-shirt, and that's my sort of baseline, because you get in a place and it's too hot and you've got different bits of clothing on, sometimes you don't want to remove them, so you need to think in terms of being able to remove it. Then this is the critical thing. This is a fisherman's gilet, and it's made for people who go out in the countryside, and I think they use it so they can put a dead fish or something like that in it. But from my point of view, this huge sketchbook, this fits in this huge back pocket. So that just goes in there, and you sort of slide it across, turn it round a bit, shunt it up and down, and it's gone in. Then the sketch roll goes in one of these very large pockets on the front, and also in this very large pocket goes the watercolour box with the water in it. And then coming on to the stuff you're going to need as well. So I take with me always an inflatable cushion. You get a good quality one. This is a Life Venture one, and I've sat on this for hours. It just behaves very well. I did have one explode once, which was quite funny, but on the whole they just reach a point where they're just useless. So coming to this pocket over this side, and I put a book to read in the pocket. So this is a B format paperback, so it's an ordinary usual size paperback, and I put the blow up cushion in there. So that's getting somewhere. Now the next thing is I take paracetamol and loperamide diarrhea pill with me, and this is just in case you start to feel ill but the painting's going very well. Then I wear reading glasses, and it's very important, if you do, to get bifocal sunglasses. So I take bifocal sunglasses with me, and then coming on to the next bit is if you take with you a bottle of hand sanitizer, that can be useful, and it can save you having to go off and wipe your hands somewhere. Perhaps a large dog may come along and lick you and you think, well, I wonder what it's got. And then we then come to any addictions. With me, I take small nicotine pills that I can put under my tongue, and I take nicotine gum and ordinary gum, so that's to me fairly critical. Then the next thing I take is Bluetooth headphones, earbuds, and that means that you can isolate yourself listening to the music you want or whatever in the background, and that works very well indeed. So now coming on to the business of, that will go in here, so this is all going in these pockets. Then we come on to the business of not losing your stuff. So what I do, keys I have on a clip and in my jeans pocket so that they're on a bit of cord and they can't go anywhere. Wallet, same thing applies. On a cord, well-made wallet, and you can make sure that when you lose your concentration on everything else, you're not going to lose your keys or your wallet. And the other thing is the phone. So I have my phone, and I have one of these cases that has a cord that goes around your neck. I was very lucky in as much as someone tried to steal my phone, but they couldn't steal my head. This was nothing to do with painting, so you can see I've still got it. Now with phones, I recommend that you buy a phone with a super camera if you can afford it. This one came from second-hand from CEX, so you get a 5-year guarantee, and the one I use is, I've had it for years now, it's a Galaxy S22, I think, and I think they're on the S25 now, but that's an S22 Ultra, and the Ultra thing means you've got a super zoom camera. So if you're painting a bit of Canterbury Cathedral and it's way off in the distance and you think, what shape is that? You can zoom in. Well, the camera in this will full frame the moon, so you don't have much of a problem with the top of Canterbury Cathedral. And yes, second hand, I think a phone like this probably about £300, something like that. You don't really need to worry about it too much. They lose their support eventually, and then you have to buy a new one because they're not secure. But this one, I think, loses its support in about a year and a half's time, and then I shall take it to CEX and they will give me probably about 100 or two for this phone against the replacement one, which will probably be £400 or £500. So I'll wind up paying 200 to 300, and it's well worth it for the super zoom. So remember, the ultra bit on the end is critical. Now we come to an outside coat. I wear a Barber jacket usually, and they're expensive, but I don't buy it new. So this is the thing I think the Queen used to wear before she died. If you can get a long one, get a very long one, but not too long. This one goes down to about the knees. It zips up, has a hood on it. There's a bit of an issue with the smell. What I do with them is I wash them out in the bath with washing powder, give them a good rinse out, and coat them with anti-quacks. So they wind up smelling okay, still waterproof. I've had no problems with that again. Now the last thing of all, which I would say is pretty much essential for Canterbury Cathedral, is sound cancelling headphones. Now these are an old set of Bose ones which I've had for years, and I don't use them as headphones now because they're not Bluetooth, but I put my ordinary Bluetooth earbuds in, stick them over the top, press the sound cancelling button, and if there are 1,000 people in the cathedral and they're all talking very loudly, I can just switch them out, and okay, you look a bit of a plonker, and they will go in the barber jacket. So I've got the whole lot, and you note I haven't fallen over. So anyway, I'm recommending that sort of approach. Don't think there's anything else I want to say. I hope it wasn't too boring, but then it will only interest you if you go painting.